Yo guys, is massive immigration the answer to a low birth rate? Tell me in the comment below what you think. And now, listen to this.
Guys, we finally have CEO from India. Okay, he is from India. This CEO, but he's not Japanese, so he changed his nationality, but he was born in India, right? And this guy, he came to Japan in 1984. Yeah, the CEO from India, and he came to Japan because in 1984, GDP of Japan was almost number one. Yeah, in the 80s, right? 1984, Japan was killing it. It was amazing time for Japan. So he came to Japan from India because he was like, hey, Japan is the future. It's gonna happen, man. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, it was
Of
hot in the
course, it
80s.
didn't last that long. Yeah. And again, he thinks that, Japan got arrogant and cocky and, just stop trying new things. I agree.
Yeah, I agree too. I've been to Japan multiple times. And when you are in Japan, it feels like, Japan is stuck in year 2000. They were in the year 2000 back in the 80s already. And now in 2024, they are still in year 2000, as if, they stopped inventing or, innovating in Japan, yeah, in the 90s, 80s. Yeah, 90s.
Yeah, since 1980s, right? He talks about Walkman, Super Mario,
That's old,
in the past, right?
That's very
Yeah,
old.
Japanese goods brand were amazing. Now what happened?
Yeah, they were amazing 20, 30 years ago. Well, I think they still are because I like Japan and Japanese products. But yeah, nowadays the most modern, the most advanced stuff doesn't come from Japan anymore.
That's what she's saying, man. The CEO, Indian CEO. And guys, can you believe this? In the late 1980s, the 10 most valuable company in the world was like Japan. Almost all of them were Japan.
Yeah,
It's
remember.
true. Now,
Even in the 90s, because I was too young to remember the 80s, in the 90s, people were always talking about Japan, about being the country of the future, where the country of innovation, the most advanced country on earth, even in the mid 90s, late 90s still.
nobody. Okay. Now we have no Japanese company in that ranking, number 10. In the late 1980s, all Japan. Now, no Japan. And also he talks about, in 50 years, our population in Japan is gonna be the 1/3 of today. I think this is positive thinking. It's gonna get much worse, but 1/3 is definitely what's gonna happen in 50 years. Well,
1/3. That seems insane. I would say half, but 1/3. That seems a bit extreme. But anyway, he is Japanese. He knows Japan way better than I do.
third, 100%, man. Less than that, I think it's gonna be, I don't know, quarter maybe. But yeah, definitely, yeah. And again, here it goes. So he, says we have to, have more immigration. That's the only way he thinks. We have to, invite more immigrants to work in Japan. That's the only way to sustain Japan.
So the migrant tells Japan to allow more migrants in Japan. Okay, so it's a migrant tells to the Japanese we need more migrants. What do you think about that, guys? Tell in the comment below. So some will say, yeah, but he's been in Japan for 40 years. He is Japanese. In Japan, you're never Japanese. You're always a gaijin. Indian, French, American, doesn't matter. You will never be Japanese. That's the way it is in Japan. Good or bad, it's like that in Japan. You always be a gaijin.
Yeah, because we don't have so many young people, right? No one is having kids. So it says that here that some people think by the time we hit 2040, So that's like 13 years from now. We need to have at least 6 million immigrant workers more. 6 million more immigrant workers in Japan. 6 million. Yeah, more. Or 7 millions. Yeah, and we need to.
6 million slaves, you mean? Because I read a lot about Japan, and it turns out the wages are only getting lower. The yen is collapsing, so yeah, nobody wants to work. I mean, the Japanese don't want to work anymore in Japan, because the income you get basically isn't motivating anymore. So you need slaves.
Achieve that goal, he says. Yeah, he says that because he's not Japanese, he says that he's proud to be Japanese now, but he thinks that we need to have more open-minded.
Well, he's very naive, In Japan, I'm not Japanese, but I know the Asian way. It's the same in Mongolia, in China. In China, no matter what you do, you will always be a Lawai, okay? In Thailand, you will always be a Farang. In Japan, you will always be a Gaijin. Doesn't matter. You can be more than fluent in Japanese, more Japanese than the Japanese are, A lot of foreigners, they like to do that when they move to another country and they want to be, more local than the locals. It's pretty funny, especially Westerners. They like to do it in Russia, in China. They want to be more patriotic than the Chinese or the Russians. The Russians is very funny, even though they don't have any Russian blood, or they speak a very broken Russian. But no, make no mistake, you will never be Japanese. Never.
We have to get more immigrant workers in Japan to work together. Diversity. That's what he's saying. We have to do it, otherwise Japan's gonna die.
What do you think, guys, about diversity in Japan? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Do you want more migrants in Japan or less migrants? What do you guys think?
Even though he was from India, and he was Indian, now he's Japanese, right? And guys, again, on Twitter,
he's a Japanese citizen.
Many people in Japan
your passport is just paper. When you hold the passport of the country, it means you are a citizen of this country, but doesn't mean you are for example, you are not Japanese in Japan, even though you have a Japanese passport, if you are white, black, or Latino, and so on. We all know that. He knows that.
First, they were so mean, to him, man. He's Japanese now. But they're like, hey, this Indian guy, he doesn't know.
They are not
Japanese,
mean. They are Japanese.
He was Indian, but he's not Japanese.
No, so he's not Japanese.
It doesn't really make sense, the argument. Hey, this guy is Indian. No, he's from India. He's not Japanese. So, he's Japanese.
Yeah, but in Japan, he's not Japanese. It's not like the US, where you move to the US and in 5 years you get a US passport and you can say, I'm American. No, it's not like that in Japan.
Like any other Japanese, right? But the thing is that because he was from India, right? 40 years ago, when Japan was on top of the game, right? Now he's saying that we have to. He says we have to embrace immigration and have more, workers.
So that's the proof he's not very Japanese, because Japanese people, they don't want immigration. No, it's well known. But he is not very Japanese. That's why he's telling you need immigration, because he doesn't know what it is like to be real Japanese. He's not Japanese. He's a Japanese citizen. So the Japanese, they are not patriotic. They are nationalistic. Okay. They don't want migrants to come over that much. Okay. They can accept you. They can allow you to stay. You can work, do your stuff, but they don't want to change Japan. They don't want Japan to become a little India or a little China or a little Europe. Tell me what you guys think in the comment. If you are from Japan, by the way, tell me in the comment below what you think about this as a Japanese.
Guys, because here's the thing. He says Japan has no choice, right? That is so true. Because other than that, again, no one wants to have kids. It's not worth it, right? People just say, I don't have the money. That's why no one has the money, so no one needs to have kids, right? It makes sense. Of course it does. No one has the money, of course, because this is what I think, right? If many Japanese, not just young, but young Japanese and other Japanese think Japan is this existential crisis, right? Hey, Japan's dying or whatever. It's gonna, we have to have more kids. I don't understand why they say, hey, by the way, I don't have enough money to have kids, so I'm not gonna do it. But I'm hoping somebody else will do it. By the way, I drink, I smoke. Jesus, what is happening?
What is happening is, people want to solve problems, but they rather let other people solve them. They know they need kids, but they don't want to make kids. So I don't want kids, but we need kids, so you are gonna make kids because we need kids. You know what I'm saying?
Right?
Well, it's the same in Western Europe. It's the same in France, in other Western countries. We all need kids. We know we need kids. We need more kids, but just a few people want to make kids. And most people make one kid. If you have two kids, it's already considered a big family here nowadays. I mean, in 2024, and very 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 few people make 3-4 kids. I mean, Europeans.
It's because if the logic makes sense that.
But migrants, they come and they make a lot of kids sometimes, even though they are dead broke. They make a lot of kids.
Let's say, hey, I don't have the money. I only make 20K, 30K a year, so I can't have kids, man. But we're gonna be fine because we're gonna have more kids. I don't, but somebody else do, man. It's fine. It's not me though. It's gonna be fine, right? That's why I always say it's not me. And it's funny, you know what I mean? But I think what they're saying, technically, it's that having kids is so difficult when I don't have the money. So I don't have the money, so I don't want to do it, right? Because my parents' generation, many of them, they had kids, like my parents. They didn't have the money. No, they didn't.
Yeah. My grandparents were dead broke. My grandmother didn't work. She was, a housewife. My grandparents, my grandfather was working in, ship construction. He was a shipping engineer, He and they had 7 kids, and he didn't make a lot of money because he was a migrant to the Netherlands, and so he couldn't, negotiate a high salary. They didn't make a lot of money, but they still had 7 kids. It's insane.
They worked their ass off to provide for the kids.
Yeah, true.
That's what happened, man.
I've been there.
No, it's not the other way around. It's nice to have money to begin with, sure, but many parents, my parents' generation, and older, they didn't have the money. They just, hey, now I got kids now, I have to work harder. That's what happened. Yeah. That's why I don't think, hey, if this makes sense. I don't have the money, so I don't want to have kids. That's true. But I don't think I don't have the money. That's why I can. I don't think that's true though, right? Because
you always can if you want to, but why make a kid if you're struggling? You will make your life harder. You can always do it. It's you will survive, but it's nowadays it's harder than before. Let's face it, especially when it comes to housing. It's not like 30, 40 years ago. Let's be honest here. So I'm not saying you shouldn't have kids, but still, it's more difficult than before. And it's not only the case in Japan. It's the same in Western Europe, in Eastern Europe, in Russia. Nobody wants to have kids anymore. But nobody. People still make kids, but way less than before. And there are more couples without kids nowadays. As a matter of fact.
People can work harder or do something to make it happen. Of course, That's what many people did back in the days. So yeah, again, it's difficult. It's worth it. No. But if Japanese think immigration is not the way to go, but of course we have to sustain our population, right? Then okay, if they love Japan, I don't understand why they don't do it. That's my point.
Yeah, good point, good point. You know, Japanese people are very nationalistic. You will never be Japanese. You will always be a gaijin. They love their country. They are proud of their country. I mean, Japanese people. So if you're so proud of your country, if you love your country, you should make kids because you want to your country to exist in the future, but they don't. So yeah, it's a difficult situation. They don't want immigration, which I understand because immigration comes with its problems as well. Tell me in the comment below what you guys think about immigration, massive immigration. But yeah, if you don't want immigration, at some point you will need kids. Otherwise, you will disappear as a nation.
If they don't care about Japan, they shouldn't do it because
Yeah.
it's not worth it. But if they like Japan, if they don't want immigration, which is fine by me, either way, I'm like pick your poison. I'm like, do whatever you want, right? So, but it doesn't make sense that they don't like immigration and they don't want to have kids. It doesn't make sense. So what's the?
Well, it makes sense in the sense that because of the high cost of living and the lower wages, they still love their country, but they love their comfort even more.
What's the path forward? I don't understand it. I don't get it. But he's Japanese. This Indian CEO from India, he's Japanese now, so he really thinks about Japan's future, and he speaks Japanese too.
No, he thinks about his future. His future is to, it doesn't bother him to import more Indians because he is Indian himself. You know what I'm saying? But is it the opinion of the Japanese people? I don't think so. I really doubt it. I don't know. I'm not Japanese, but I doubt it.
Watch his like an interview, and he speaks Japanese too, so good for him, right? But anyway, so yeah. But again, guys, follow me on Twitter because those Japanese people are funny. It's comical. They're attacking this guy, man. But he's Japanese now. But and those Twitter in Japan, Twitter is funny, so funny, man. You know what I mean? Follow me there, and also Twitch. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. What do you think, guys?
What you think, guys? Tell me in the comment below. Is this Indian CEO Japanese now or not? Even though he speaks Japanese and does, I think, hold a Japanese passport. What do you think about immigration in Japan? Should Japan, allow a lot of migrants in Japan to cope with the low birth rate or not? Tell me what you think about it. Smash that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. Share this video. And check the links below in the description. Comment below and talk to you soon. We're out.